Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to the IIG Insight session, Skills Development in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. My name is Christina Jenkins, and we are so thrilled for you to be a part of this incredible webinar. We would like to please hand over to Tshepiso Chocho, the President of the Insurance Institute of Gauteng, to come through and to do a very short introduction. Thank you very much, Tshepiso. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Christina, and good morning to everyone. As Christina has said, my name is Tshepiso Chocho. I am the current president of the IIG, but by day, what pays my bills is the fact that I am the executive manager for people at Sasria. I do hope that everyone is well and doing their best to stay safe. Welcome to another inspiring insight session. It's another partnership between GIFTS and the IIG. Thank you for joining us this morning. We do like to keep connected with you as an industry, even in these crazy times. So today, GIFTS, in collaboration with the IIG, has put together an incredible program with a discussion around skills development in the fourth industrial revolution. It is yet another conversation that matters. And as a human resources professional myself, I have a vested interest in the discussions that will be taking place. The discussion would involve an astute panel who will be engaging with us and helping us think about the necessary skills and competencies required in business, more especially in the South African short-term insurance context. So while this discussion is taking place, we do ask that you engage with us on our social media platforms and remember to tag the IIG and GIFTS, use hashtag GIFTS, hashtag your IIG, hashtag be the difference. Tell us what you are thinking, tell us what you are learning, and tell us how you are going to adapt and change from hearing these conversations. Please also note, I'm sure all of us have been in many Zoom calls. There is a chat box that you can use for your questions during the session and any comments that you might have. This session is a CPD accredited session. Please make sure to get your CPD certificate from the CPD Vault on the IIG website. You have to use a valid South African ID number to collect your certificate. Should you have any queries about the website, the CPD, or anything in relation to that, please reach out to us on our email, info@iig.co.za. So now that I am salivating from the lineup of the speakers, I'm going to quickly hand over to Christina to introduce everybody to us. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much for that, Tshepiso. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me such great pleasure of introducing you to our moderator for the session, Dr. Kirshen Pillay, CEO of the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences. Dr. Kirshen Pillay is regarded as one of the foremost thought leaders and education trailblazers, as well as visionaries. He is deeply committed to mobilizing the power of education to create a better Africa for others to inherit. Kirshen is an astute innovator who is nationally acknowledged and respected for his constituent efforts to level the socio-economic playing field by making quality education available to all. As a result, Kirshen was named the TYI Top 100 Young African Innovators of 2018. Now, this accolade, ladies and gentlemen, is one of many commendations from business and industry bodies that recognize Kirshen's contributions to the business, his foresight, and of course, his vision, his achievements, as well as his future fit approach to education. These include being named a National Business Award finalist in 2017 and a finalist in the Entrepreneur of the Year and a Young Achiever categories in the coveted National Oliver Top Awards in 2017, 2018, and yes, 2019. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Kirshen Pillay, a very warm welcome to you.
Wow, Christina, thank you for that very long bio. I think it's a CV opportunity there as well. Tshepiso, thank you for having us on this platform again. So The fourth industrial revolution represents a new era of innovation in technology, one that's enhancing human-machine relationships, unlocking new market opportunities, and fueling growth across the global economy. I will let you ponder on that for a moment. Because if it's true, then why do we have the missing middle? Those workers whose job skills had been supplanted by technology. What am I referring to? You may ask. I refer you to an article published by the Institute for Global Dialogue, which outlined the large-scale retrenchments in the banking sector, which serves as one of the first and major examples of 4IR's implications on human labor in South Africa. In March 2019, Standard Bank announced a closure of 91 branches nationwide. In June 2019, the number had increased to 104 branches, and the loss of jobs equaling 1,200. In July of the same year, Nedbank announced an estimate of 1,500 retrenchments. So what we are noticing is, in fact, jobs are becoming obsolete, which is resulting in job roles becoming extinct, which in turn reduces our tax base, reduces our downstream employment, and ultimately impacts our economy. So, is the fourth industrial revolution really boom? Or is it in fact doom? Good morning, IIG community. Thank you for joining us today. I would love to hear from you, so please get active on that chat box and let me know what you think. Is the fourth industrial revolution really boom, or is it in fact doom? As always, in true insight fashion, we bring you some heavy hitters in corporate education. Joining us today to shed some insight on skills development in the fourth industrial revolution from South Africa's largest insurer is Frans Kutumela. Frans has almost 3 decades of experience in leadership and people development, spanning across the sectors of technology, banking, communications, and insurance. Frans holds a postgraduate qualification in HR from the University of Johannesburg and is currently completing his master's in human resource development. This multi-award winning learning specialist serves on various boards in both the public and private sector, one of those boards being the MIC CETA board. Welcome, Frans, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kirsten, and good morning, everyone. Happy to be here.
We look forward to hearing more from you, Frans. And from the bank, whose retrenchment numbers I've strategically not mentioned, is Sean Naidu. Sean has entered the world of banking in 1994, having held various roles throughout his career, from systems manager to head of optimization to the chief of staff, all the way through to the chief operations officer, and now the executive head for enablement change in ABSA. This has afforded Sean the opportunity to work across the African continent, and his hip pocket skills and specialization is rescuing ailing business operations as well as managing new acquisitions and mergers, integrations in challenging and unfamiliar environments. Now, if you thought that was impressive, having graduated with a dual certification MBA through Henley and Reading University, this overachiever is currently busy with a Master's of Business Management in Digital Business with Wits Business School. Welcome, Sean, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kirshen, and thank you to everyone that's joining. Looking forward to it.
So let's pick up exactly where we left off. Is the fourth industrial revolution really boom or doom? So again, panelists, I'd love to hear from you. So please don't feel shy. Start chatting with us. Let us know what your thoughts are on this and whether you in fact think it's boom or doom. So referencing various academics, CEOs, research experts, including our very president of the Republic of South Africa, all of whom dispel the potential doom scenarios about the job loss carnage that the fourth industrial revolution is leaving in its wake. Instead, they talk about job shifts and job creation alongside job extinction. To create context, I shared this reference used by the Bank-Sita and In-Sita Research Chair for Digitalization, where he referenced the personal computer in the 1980s that destroyed an estimated 3.5 million jobs in America. But it also created 19 new million jobs across the economy. Similarly, the 2018 World Economic Forum report cited
Sorry, I think we've lost sound.
CEOs predict.
Kirshen, I think we've lost your sound.
Sean?
Thanks, everyone. I think we've lost sound, so from Kirshen.
It sounds like it. So I was going to ask you to go ahead.
Sure. So thanks very much. Yeah, I think when Kirshen gets back, we'll rejoin that point. But I think maybe just to go back to the point around, is it doom or is it gloom? And I think, I'd like to start off by saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and that the fourth industrial revolution right now, as we move into it, it takes all of us collectively, and all of us being all stakeholders that have a vested interest in the development of our society, and not just business as a whole, in order for us to move forward. I think there's a lot of value in teaching the teacher, and that the fourth industrial revolution right now, we are all students to it. The popular rhetoric that we're going to encounter job losses in the future workspace due to automation and robotics. I think that's a misguided notion, because the fact is that the focus should be on appreciating the gradual move of human resources from mundane and simple tasks, to these superior functions that humans bring. I think it's important to note that, we have to graduate our workforces from these simple activities, and we need to go back to the essence of what human beings are capable of. The essential skills of emotion, interpersonal relations, and the dexterity that complex human capability brings to us. So I think that the reason we see it as doom and gloom is probably because a number of environments are not prepared. I think we need to go back to the level of preparation that's required. Kirshen, I know you've returned, and I was just jumping into just addressing the scenario of doom and gloom, but I'm happy for you to just come back into it so we can just take the conversation forward.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for playing rescue there. I think what happens when you take on the 4IR gods and you talk about the word doom, they just cut you at the legs. And that's what's happened in this instance. So, Frans, I think I'd like to start with you, if you don't mind. And if you could just give us your opinion firstly, before we deep dive into these questions. One word, boom or doom?
It is indeed a boom, Kirsten, and I've got a number of reasons why I'm so optimistic and passionate about the opportunities that we are seeing with this 4IR situation, as opposed to the previous industrial changes that we've seen, which I think were very monolithic and one way. This, at least we're seeing a lot of integration across fields, and in the insurance industry, we're seeing a whole lot more of activity and growth, definitely.
Fantastic. So then let's just dive into the question, what skills, or key skills rather, and competencies are needed to ensure that the financial services industry is future fit from your perspective?
Thanks, Kirsten. And I think colleagues will agree with me as we enter this interesting discussion around skills and competencies. And something that we have seen since the turn of the century has been evolution of skills in this environment. And I think in your intro and context setting, you said it beautifully, that as much as there's been losses, but they've been very calculated risks and growth points, and in most importantly, integrations where instances where we have seen job redundancies. And I must say, personally, my experience has been in the 26 years that I've been in the learning and development space, almost on an annual basis, we've been involved in reskilling, upskilling, and multi-skilling. And there's been no stone left unturned with regard to saving jobs, or at least repurposing where needed. So I'm quite confident that what we are seeing are daily challenges, and really, I would like to address this at two levels. One, at an individual level, meaning that an individual colleague or employee taking responsibility for their own career and development. But secondly, we have seen huge investment made by the banking sector in general, the insurance sector in general, and each organizations that I've represented, I've seen growth in terms of investment in learning and development budgets. So there's been no short of resources from a financial perspective to invest in the development of our people across the board. And I'm quite encouraged and inspired by that. But coming to the definite skills that we are seeing, we have seen growth in terms of data. There's a growth in data analysts, data scientists across this industry. Also because of the amount of data that we are handling, and being in a regulated environment, we must handle our customers, our employees, our stakeholders' data with care and due diligence. So we have seen a shift and growth in that, and also presenting big opportunities into cybersecurity, just associating with data to making sure data is secure. As we move into the cloud, we've seen a lot of cloud engineer requirement and development programs and initiatives just on the technology side. But when one looks also into IT, the traditional project management has shifted to more of agile sprint way of work, where feature analyst role, Scrum Master roles have been created. And generally, if I look into marketing, into HR, which is our field, into learning and development, we've seen new roles emerge. For an example, with remote learning now, we have seen a lot of data, or rather content specialist, content curators. We now growing in terms of those that can design content, UX design, customer experience role. That's why I'm saying we are seeing integration of role where people, whether they come from a finance background, a marketing background, can also move and learn and acquire new skills. These are the skills of the future, which there's a lot of opportunities with these digital platforms where one can easily complete a program and become marketable. Structured programs, we've invested in a lot of these structured programs making sure that we upskilling. We've appointed a lot of graduates, a lot of learners, to make sure that we're filling the pipeline, but certainly ensuring that those that are employed also can repurpose in terms of multi-skilling, reskilling, and growing and even changing careers, as it were.
Fantastic. Frans, thank you for that. And I see this strong talk about data analytics, data science, and I'm just crossing over to some of our chat boxes. It's almost unanimous. In fact, it is unanimous. Everyone is saying that there's boom, and there's opportunities within the boom. And I'm enjoying Paula's comment here, which is boom all the way. Human interventions always needed, so humans will acquire new skills and grow in this new boom. So I think that's a very important factor to remember. So Sean, if we can get your point of view on this. So obviously there's going to be upskilling from the technological side, which France has brought in and says, marketing, HR, finance, all of these new roles are going to adapt to with this technological flair. But tell us on the human side as well. So give us the competencies. We've covered technological. From a human perspective, what do we need as an industry to be future fit?
So I think it's quite interesting. As you were speaking, I just saw a little note pop up where somebody asked, where can I do a data analytics course? And, we've got to actually start. And I think Frans mentioned an important point about starting with the individual, and I actually like that question. And Christian, it's important that we actually go back to that. But I think, when we talk about data science and the use of data, there's a statement that actually stands out for me. It's like, it's from invisible to invaluable. For a long time, data in an organization, as traditional insurance environments, has been pretty much static. We haven't really progressively used data up until the fourth industrial revolution, and maybe in the last 10 years that we started deep diving data and started using it better. I think if you look at the type of investments that need to be made in order to get this, I have no doubt the technology investment needs to be made. We need to invest in new technology. We need to get close and intimate with our data. But we also need to ensure that there's an investment in critical resources as well. And then it goes back to, are the resources ready to actually deep dive this data? I think you look at customer sentiment analysis and where we're moving towards and being more proactive in understanding how data works, and how it works for us as an organization is really important. But I think to answer the question around, what do we need to do in order to ensure that we have the right resources, and they're future fit to ensure that they can perform these functions? I think we've got to start much earlier. If you look at some of the work that some of the industry is doing, we look at ABSA Insurance and the sort of work they're doing around readying the workforce. I think it's important to note that we don't just get ready for the fourth industrial revolution, but we also ensure that individuals, get the grounding that's required to understand the insurance business. Because there's an obsession recently to say, oh, well, we've got to move towards these new roles and these technology-driven roles, technology-based roles. But what about the grounding in insurance and the value of understanding insurance, not just conceptually, but technically within an environment? So I think there's a lot of value in technical learning in insurance, understanding product, and then centralizing this around the customer. And deep diving data and getting those insights is absolutely important. But I think taking our staff along on the journey, and maybe just to go back to the earlier question, but just to address this very specifically, I think that we've got to realize that not all staff and all learners and all resources turn up equally in an organization. And therefore, we're in a position where we can actually abandon individuals by saying, oh, well, there's this new that we need to do. We need to deep dive data. We need to do data analytics. Well, there's a portion of individuals, the at-risk individuals, that don't have the same grounding. And so it's important for us to ensure that we invest heavily in our human resources, and that I think that we can complain about the school structures, the university structures, but I think once individuals enter an organization, there's a commitment from the organization to make the individuals ready and future fit. So aspects of data science is not just the job or the function of the actuaries that have come in purposely to find jobs in the insurance industry, It's welcoming individuals that are already within their environment. And to Francis' point, step changing them and giving them the critical skills that's required to attain success in their roles.
No, Sean, I think what you said is so true. And I love, and I need to just spend a moment on this thought. Not all staff turn up equally. Not all staff turn up equally. And that's so true, especially within South Africa. We're such a diverse organization. And I think that's something very, very important for us to understand when trying to package these 4IR programs and courses. And I think what we also do is, like, I'm looking at Mandy's comment, where can we do these data analytics courses? Oh. How do we do it? But what we need to firstly understand, the width and the breadth of 4IR is so deep. There's never going to be a BSc in the fourth industrial revolution. It's going to be a logical building block or Lego block of qualifications that are coming through. And what we are going to see, especially in the archaic system of education, is that there's going to be specialist areas of fourth industrial revolution. And those specialist majors and areas is what you are going to do. And I think, Mandy, there's a lot of individuals present here today that will definitely share some information about how you can delve into this and what you can get out of it. And then we have William, who says the fourth industrial revolution skills development starts with the inclusion of the 4 C's into the ETD of learners. And I think that's very, very, very true. But I want to just summarize this question so we can go into a more deeper understanding to get some clear outlines here. So based on this discussion, it's very clear that the skills of the future are both technological in nature as well as human in nature. And I think what we need to also delve on a little bit more about is the human in nature skills. So the human skills needed, so from all the research, and I'm looking at the chat boxes and what's coming out, everyone is saying it, but we need to articulate it better. The human skills needed in our sector right now are critical thinkers, are active listeners, are analytical thinkers, and collaborators. Now, we've also covered that the technical skills in our industry and the technical skills that we need professionals skilled in data science and advanced analytics. However, in South Africa, this demand far exceeds our supply, leading to a particular severe digital skills gap. We also have the lack of capacity and readiness to adopt digital technology in comparison to similar emerging economies, and obviously the access to reliable and affordable data. So, France, it's becoming increasingly clear that data science and analytics will be critical to the future of the short-term insurance workspace. How do we as an industry how do we prepare from now to effectively meet these challenges?
Apologies, Keshan, I was just unmuting there. And thanks for the question, and quite an important question. And one really need to be careful how we move around this. And I would just like to make one slight twist to this question and really bring it to the core of what we are discussing. And the issue here is a question of leadership. Leadership being a skill and competence that we so much need in these uncertain, unusual, unprecedented times. In order for us to shift and pivot, we really need good leaders who have very strong emotional intelligence to assist us, especially during this time of COVID challenges, to really pivot and help our people deal with what we can call compounded trauma, because really society is impacted, families are impacted, and our employees are challenged in many ways. And it's us in rallying together and coming up with ways that can support one another, making very relevant the human skills of leading with empathy, really connecting with people at a personal and team level on a regular basis, and as we addressing some of these challenges. So I just wanted to make a comment that we shouldn't lose sight that whether you look at it from a transformation lens, whether you look at it from good governance and really driving growth and creating stewardship into organizations, we really need leaders who can drive these objectives. Then coming back to, it's a systematic approach which organizations need to take. And Sean said it beautifully when he said that it's preparing the organization, but while we do that, we've lost so much time. And, you know, the horse has already bolted on this one. Most of the organizations are playing catch up. As we said, data has always been there, but we are seeing the appreciation of data, the analysis of data, the understanding of data to make critical decisions, to drive business strategic objectives, etc. And really, it's how we integrate these things into the products and services, into marketing, into communication with our customers and stakeholders, and really using that to drive the organization. I think what we have seen, and especially from a learning space, is that we've always integrated the core business, the technology, and we've made sure that the growth areas are actually serviced, and we've put programs in place and partnered with a number of stakeholders to develop these much needed skills. And really it's taking, I think, measured steps in ensuring that we develop responsibly our growth in numbers and also development programs, whether it's with learnerships or graduate programs, or even some of the on-the-job learnerships that we have done, have always been aimed at ensuring that people can better improve themselves, get better opportunities for growth, and indeed becoming retention or assets for the organization. And most importantly, creating that stability on the job market.
Frans, I think it's very well summed up from your side in saying that, how do we meet these challenges? So you're saying, firstly, it starts with good leaders.
Yes.
And then you're saying that we need to prepare the industry, but we already have the cart before the horse, and we're now playing catch up. Because there's now only this realization that data is in fact so important, and it's the new crude oil that's in place. So I completely understand that, and it makes a lot of sense. And Sean, from your side, how do you see this coming into place? And I think you, before I come to you, Sean, I see there's a chat from Vikesh who says collaborations with the sector education authorities, skills development programs and courses such as these are going to be so critical. So I think with that in mind, I think, Sean, if you want to just tackle it from your end and give us your view on this.
Thanks. There's some fantastic comments. Thanks, Vikesh and William. I see there's some lovely comments coming through. Guys, please keep your comments coming in. There's an important factor, I think, an aspect that we need to look at is that, we're all students to this fourth industrial revolution, the teachers and the students. We're all students. We're in the early parts of this. We're all learning. And I think part of what we need to consider, if you look at the primary and secondary school education, is the need to lead teachers on a journey themselves to understand the fourth industrial revolution, and not imagining that everyone's ready to teach. So that's very important. I think that's an important aspect, and that's something that needs to come together. It comes together at a national level. I mean, you look at a network readiness aspect from a South African perspective, we're very ready from a technology perspective. You know, we've got the infrastructure, we're infrastructure rich, but probably solutions poor in the way we are approaching it. In many industries, you know, there's a lot of automation taking place at a very high level in some industries and a very low level. If you look at the industries that are really ready now for digital disruption, it's going to be the banking and insurance industry as we see it. And if I focus on that and I look at the impacts of, and what I would almost look at is almost like, it's almost a drama triangle, to be quite honest. You need the contribution of the individual, the educational institutions, as well as the organization. I saw a stats a little while ago that spoke to the number of individuals, youth worldwide, that report that they had to go outside of their formal school to get skills for the jobs they want. 79% of youth pointed that out in a worldwide study with Deloitte, that they had, and this was specific to the financial sector, that they had to go outside. And a mere 3% said that they relied on the organization to actually upskill and educate them to make them job fit. So I think there's a big role, and I agree with Bikesh. I think that the CETAs have to come in along with the organizations, okay, to bring together these offerings. But I think there's also a need for preparation in understanding where to from here. An example, in a previous space that I worked in, we built an academy that focused on the traditional aspects of insurance, and I always called it level -1, because to get to level 0, which is future-proofing these individuals, takes commitment from the organization. I think from an education sector perspective, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I mean, you're not easily finding accessible digital learning courses for the average man on the streets. I mean, if you go in now and you Google digital skills training in South Africa, you're probably going to be pointed towards postgraduate and master's level classes. There's no practical opportunities that are coming in. And I think this is where government plays a role, that government needs to understand as we move from the first industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution, things are starting to happen faster. I read a study recently that said that human beings have started to walk almost twice as fast as they used to walk in the 80s. Things are happening quite fast in the world right now, globally. And so what we need to look at is policy making needs to happen more faster, with government, big business, and the education sector getting together to understand what it is we need to do to future-proof our youth. And it's important to go back to the youth, because the youth are future workforce and they are future customers.
Thank you, Sean. I think you've summed it up very nicely as well. So we go on to Frans, who talks about those good leaders and how we need to prepare the industry and have this sense of appreciation. But in order for us to meet these challenges, the industry or the sector itself cannot do it on its own. So we're saying that it needs to start as early as the schooling stage. And then we're saying from a preparation stage based on the work environment, only 3%, according to the research that you have quoted, relied on their work front. And then you talk about the government's role and the lack of accessibility of these programs and the courses at the foundational level. So already we're seeing we need schools, industries, and government to work together with good leadership and a fertile playground for that. Thank you guys for this. I appreciate these points. And I'm going on to what Pumi is saying here in the chat. So Pumi says that there's a very important point that we all are learning. It's the journey that needs curation. So just as a question, who's going to be the curator? Frans, do you want to jump in on this? Who do you think our curator should be? Who is curating? We all are learning. So who's curating what we're learning?
I think all of us should be curators, but you know, that could also lead to a state of chaos. I think we need guidance, we need monitoring. And Kirsten, I think that is already available within the structures that we are seeing that it can be left to the individual. I'm often approached via emails and colleagues saying, what are some of the courses that I can do to improve my career? I hear there's going to be an impact in the future. What do I do to sort of bulletproof my role and my career? And it's really guiding, and I think it's starting with letting our teams and people know what's available, what is the organization trying to do, obviously aligned to the strategy, and move in terms of creating programs that will help individuals access and make it really accessible. I think today there's really no issue with regards to platforms. We talk about the challenges that we have nationally, but I think internationally, globally, there's best practice. We have seen how we've been able to access cloud computing skills using the likes of Microsoft and Amazon, to name a few, in terms of programs, and making sure that people can consume learning out of LinkedIn as a platform, Degree, Udemy, Percipio from Skillsoft. So there's been a number of initiatives, and we've packaged these things so that learning can be available digitally, mobile, and we've dealt with a number of issues to make sure that our employees and teams have got learning accessible. However, we also see, in talking about curation, that people get lost because it's too much. If you give anybody, a learning bouquet of over 3,000 courses, they get lost. And rather have curation in terms of, here's the content that you consume, make it available in bite-sized chunks, and reward people as they get the competence and confidence as they complete these. But also there could be a push and a pull factor on how this can be consumed, because we also want people to be able to do other things and not to be in a perpetual learning state. As we do these things, we also need to have action learning and projects, and have our teams and individuals produce something and play with a skill and show us what they can do. Because it's really in the actioning of these that we are going to reap the benefit and the reward for what sits, because there's a huge opportunity that the fourth industrial revolution is presenting, and we've seen some moonshoots coming off from just playing with the initial technology. And that's my contribution, Kirsten, and I think we just need to guide people a little bit more, and make sure that as they grow and gain confidence and they start asking for more, that we make that available. But already, let's not fool ourselves. People have already been using other public platforms to consume learning outside of our organizations. And now we are really just making sure that we're supporting them and making learning, sort of democratized learning in these digital skills.
Frans, thank you so much for it. Where has the time gone? Today is a very hard job for me to be moderator. As I'm looking at this chat box, it's like a Formula One race course with thoughts. But just to try and do my bit here, I'm looking at what Fatima Lehe says, that yes, we're going to get rid of the mundane tasks, etc., etc. But we have Simon on the other hand who says, listen, what about those that lost their jobs? Where's the retraining programs that are in place? And then we go on to, I saw an amazing comment that came through from Bronwyn, who spoke about the intermediaries who lack the knowledge. So there's such a clear balancing act that we need to do. But most importantly, Vani Naidu raised a very important factor to say that, we must not forget the human factor, because that's what's going to help us effectively meet these challenges. But then when you flip this on the coin and you look at it from the perspective of, and I hope I'm getting your name correct, Rohina Naidu, who says, yes, wonderful, give them the qualifications, give us the skills, but we need to have the experience. So there is such a melting pot of thoughts and ideas, and we literally don't have time because we're already down to 13 minutes. And I cannot tell you where the time has gone to. But if you look at some of the comments that are coming through, where we've seen Colleen say curatorship goes hand in hand with mentorship programs. So do you think that that's going to be a strong focus, mentorship programs, to help ensure that we cement that experience element coming into it? So Sean, I'd like to hear from you as your closing thought on this particular question, because I'd love to tackle some of the other important questions that we have. So Sean, over to you. Just from your perspective, what are you thinking about saying, yes, we're giving you the skill, but what about the experience that goes with it? And does that include mentorship? Is that the solution?
Yeah, I think these are fantastic points. Sorry, I was just reading these chat comments. Excellent points that are coming through from the members that have joined. And I think the career path analysis and sort of assessment that needs to be done in any organization, be it an insurance organization or any organization in this economy, that career path assessments are an important aspects of moving people through a structured learning on the job, learning through academics, and understanding their career opportunities throughout. And so mentorship is a big part that does come through. I mean, if I look at some of the work that I've done previously, I think the biggest value has been in giving people guidance and coaching them through understanding what the opportunities are. You know, I was reading a couple of weeks ago, you know, the value of guidance counseling in schools. I'm not sure. I finished school a long time ago, so you know, maybe the younger members of the crowd here could tell me. But I remember in the early 90s, we had guidance counselors. We had guidance counselors, and we had a little thing. It shows how old I am. Right Living, you know, and Right Living, we sat with the guidance counselor who spoke to us about what are we going to do after school. There is no one actually linking for youngsters in school where they go to from here and what their career opportunities and pathways could look like. There's a number of youngsters right now that you could go up to in school and say, what would you like to become? There are some traditional options that will go there, but there's not a lot that are linking career opportunities to their current learning. So I think mentoring and coaching and the contribution starts much earlier, not just when you're in a job. It's a work that's done before that. And you know, the whole aspect of curatorship and exactly whose responsibility it is, I think yet again, it takes a village to raise a child. And so there's a lot of us that have to focus on ensuring that we give the right level of support. But to get mentorship going, you know, you need to understand that this takes serious commitment. The mentee and the mentor have to understand what it is that they're looking for as an outcome. And many individuals don't know what they're looking for. So I think it's so important that organizations, as well as the schooling system, focus a lot on giving people guidance on what the opportunities are and guiding our youth, especially our youth, so that they can pick tangible career pathways. You know, I've always looked at myself. I've been in a career of opportunity because I've never quite had a career pathway that I've followed, but I've been given a lot of guidance and support through my career. And that's when I've been able to take different opportunities. And I really think mentorship's an important aspect. But I think that mentorship is something that an individual needs to seek as much as they receive it. So it's important for us to look for that. And I think maybe just the last point is going back to the aspects of individuals within an organization, that it's important for that cross skilling initiative to take place and to make it less formulaic. You know, you've got to work in this department, and that organizations need to find a better flex on how they allow individuals to learn about each other and get those opportunities as part of a tangible career pathway upwards, whether it's through the learning academies or through informal initiatives. We need to bring the job fits aspect of it closer, understanding of the opportunities academically and on the job, and ensure that individuals are getting that benefit. So we don't make it so formulaic.
No, Sean, I agree with you, and so does our audience here today. It's such a pity that I feel we need to turn back the clock because time is definitely running out, but there's such interesting comments and topics and ideas and thought processes that are coming through that we're just not doing justice here. However, I want to ask you, Frans, so we understand where we're at. We know that a lot needs to be done, and a lot of challenges need to be met. But how do you think, Frans, the insurance roles will evolve to accommodate these new skills and competencies so that we don't have the situations that Bronwyn and Simon were alluding to earlier? So again, I'll repeat just for clarity, how do you think the insurance roles will evolve to accommodate these new skills and competencies, Frans?
Thanks, Christian, and also encouraged by some of the comments that are coming through. And indeed, you know, there's a need for integration. And when I talk about integration, I'll talk about how the organization and the industry needs to come together in planning for some of these future skills. But certainly what sits at the heart of this is our employees who may be impacted or suffer the consequence of us adopting this technology. The message I have is to really individuals, teams, and organizations investing in the existing talent for us to retain as much as we can of our existing staff and employees. And as much as we have seen with every change, there's always a stage for preparation, change management, partnering and engaging with colleagues at all levels, but really focusing on the skilling, reskilling, and multi-skilling. But over and above that, really sharing the why this is important, why are we going there, but also not leaving the customer behind. But because at the end of the day, we're doing this for our customer base who are very discerning, who are very much aware of what's happening, what they want, and who are also stressed and challenged with these challenges. So as we pivot and evolve, one needs to really look into the situation we're facing and build accordingly. Structure programs accordingly, ensure we support colleagues accordingly. But I can assure you we're not short of funding and support. From my experience, as I've mentioned at least, there is huge willingness to invest and engage and attract and retain talent across the board. Our responsibility is to make sure that we at least secure this joblessness and job unemployment bloodbath that we are seeing on the market. This industry has shown some resilience, has shown disruptive behavior, but most importantly, growth prospects, as we have seen in the recent news, where we've seen every organization mentioning the types of skills that they need. And I'm very upbeat about the opportunities that are there. It's up to everyone to really grasp these opportunities and make sure that they're not left behind. Thanks.
Frans, thank you for that. It's very encouraging to hear that from you. It really, really is. And it's so good. And we hear the passion, we hear the commitment. And I think for all, that's really important here today. With 5 minutes to go, I just want to do a quick parting thought from you, Sean, and thereafter a quick parting thought from you, Frans. Sean, is there anything that you would like to leave us with, a one-liner or two?
Thanks, Christian. I think, yeah, you know, I think the next generation is going to lead us, and you know, I'm looking forward to it. And there's a lot of value I'd like to remind the younger generation in reverse mentoring, and you have a huge role to play to reverse mentor the older generation. You are the leaders of the future. Take us and take the older generation along on this journey. Reverse mentoring is going to be the way of the future, so that we also don't leave behind our older generation. As you are learning new, and you're going on that journey, take us along with you. Okay, thank you.
Wow, that is powerful. Reverse mentoring. The future is in our youth, and take us along the journey with you. Frans?
Thanks, Christian. And also to perhaps mention that those that are looking for career opportunities within the banking and insurance sector, the barrier of entry is quite low. I think with only metric, you can enter this space and start a career in banking and insurance. Also, for colleagues who've been in the industry for a while, who've gained core skills and competence, can easily pivot and start a second career. As an example, if you've been an assessor or an underwriter or in the claims area, you can now learn and adopt new skills. But while I'm saying this, it's also important that we're not only focusing on the technical aspect and the digital and future skills only, we're also seeing that there's much needed human skills that you have mentioned, and the research is pointing us very clearly that as we work remotely and digitally, issues of collaboration comes into play. We really have an opportunity here to integrate and harness the energy and the skills and the competence of our teams for us to really build and rebuild the future. And very excited about this industry and the opportunities we have.
Thank you very much for that. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with these thoughts. Experts guesstimate that by 2026, the fourth industrial revolution could unlock 1.4 trillion rand of value in South Africa across the agricultural infrastructure, manufacturing, and financial services sector. But it's also clear that if South Africa is to become a legitimate participant in the digital revolution, it will need to make some fundamental changes first in order for us to realize this trillion rand economic boost. So chief among them, these are the changes that I think, based on what our panel has been saying today and your comments, are organizations need to take it upon themselves to prepare their workforce for the changes to come by facilitating a learning culture of reverse mentoring. And it's a joint responsibility of learning that will ensure business and professionals are ready for the jobs of the future. Deliberately working towards combating the low levels of digital literacy in our workforce, which we now understand starts at a schooling level. The third point is to hold our government accountable to deliver on its 2023 vision. Despite the daunting task ahead, South Africa has already begun to prepare to take this leap into the future with technological transformation rolling out across all sectors. Beyond simple productivity improvements, the fourth industrial revolution technologies have become a sign of hope in South Africa. In South Africa's social and development challenges. It also starts with sessions like these and people like you. So thank you for for your engaged participation today. And to my esteemed panelists, you have incited meaningful conversation today. Thank you for your contributions and your insight. You have been phenomenal. Again, on behalf of GIFTS and your IIG president, Ms. Tshepiso Chocho, we thank you all for engaging in conversations that matter. Christina, over to you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've been amazing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirshen, and thank you very much to all of our participants, as well as to our panelists. You have all been such an engaging and such an incredible audience, and we wish you all the very, very best. Thank you very much, and take care.